you get rich in the niche, right? And so I tend to believe that. And I think that in a fractional world, that one makes the most sense to me. I know there's arguments on the other side, but the argument I see on the niching side is that if you're giving people a fraction of your time, it really is about deliverables, and it's about your intellectual property, and it's about what you can and how quickly you can deliver that. And so the more narrow your ICP is, the better, because you'll be able to get the results that you say you're going to be able to get, which is only going to make your clients happier, which is only going to let them refer more to you. And then in addition to that, other fractionals that you're working with, if they know your niche as well, when they encounter a client having that problem, they can refer to you as well, and they know that you'll do a great job.
Welcome to Six Figure Secrets of Fractional Experts, where we have candid conversations with successful fractional executives discussing their journey to build their independent consulting businesses and hearing their hard-earned lessons. Today, I am thrilled to have Paul Jones with us. Paul is the founder of Bridgio, a SaaS tool that helps make virtual events collaborative. What made me invite him to this podcast was a service that he offers on their website, where he helps business with strategic referral network creation. That's really interesting, Paul. Welcome to the show. And can you start by explaining to our audience, what does this mean?
Sure. Yes. Hey, it's great to be here, Yash. It's great to be with you. And I'm excited to be joining you today. And to be able to rub shoulders with other fractionals it's going to be a lot of fun. Basically, strategic referral network. What does that mean? I think many of the people listening and anyone that's in sales or marketing has probably gone down the inbound road and the outbound road. And those plays are really well known. You know, with inbound, or you can run a content strategy. With outbound, you can get a cold list and work that cold list. And so I've come and I've been in sales in many different capacities, and you know that outbound motion is something that we know really well. But in the last 3 years, I think that what people are looking for is they're looking for new revenue acquisition models. And that gets really exciting. I really like that. What are different ways that you can engage your ICP? I think we're starting to ask some really great questions, which is, you know, in the past, you'd get a cold list and you'd say, this is what we do, want to buy? And it's a churn and a burn kind of situation. Your SDRs are working their asses off. It's a numbers game. And the conversion has gone down. And so what companies have done is they've increased their efforts to maintain the same conversions. And I think a lot of people, a lot of sales leaders, a lot of organizations are and marketers are thinking, well, what are some other ways that we can acquire revenue? And especially, what are some new ways that we can do that? And so when you look at this concept of community, the community industry has been around for 10 plus years. As you know, Nityesh, it hasn't been hot. I mean, it's been hot for the last 4 years, really. And you see this explosion of community managers and companies building communities. They first got into communities, building communities. A lot of organizations, the bigger ones, got into community management as support deflection. They realized that, you know, support teams generally hit cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold hits your margin. We want to, you know, mitigate support as much as we possibly can. And community was a good play for that. You start a community, and how do we help? How do our users, you know, answer the challenges and questions of other users? And you see a decrease. So that's really where I think community started getting its traction from. And then where we kind of fit in with strategic referral network, you take this concept of community, you take this concept of people are gathering around a watering hole to talk about a certain product, how they use the product, a challenge that they might have. Well, what would happen if we expanded that to beyond just customers, but to potential clients, potential customers? What are the conversations that they want to be having? What are the challenges that they have? And so you take this concept of community, which has really become really hot lately, and you look at that and say, okay, how can we use community as a go-to-market strategy? How do we bring our ideal client profiles together underneath the brand, underneath the company's brand, and create a space where they can openly talk about challenges? And in fact, that's how the company then begins to provide the first pieces of value to building a relationship with their ICP. So traditionally you had like, come in and read our content about a specific problem that we're experts and we can solve. So now you're attracting, people that are looking for that specific pain point, which is great. It's a great outbound strategy, inbound strategy. But this strategy is almost the flip of that, which is we don't care what your pain or your problem is. It can be related to our products and our services, but we want to build a relationship with you as our ICP. And we want to create a space where you can come and talk about any challenge that you have, because we ultimately, as a company, want you to be successful. And so a strategic referral network is one, that's the network piece. So as a company, invest in and build a network of your ideal client profiles and create a space where they can come in and talk about challenges. The whole width of challenges, the whole gamut of challenges that your ICP deals with. The strategic referral part of that is that as you create a space where that is happening on a regular basis, a lot of those challenges, ideally, if you've nailed your ICP, is a lot of those challenges that are going to get talked about regularly are going to come up in those conversations in that space that you've created. And that's an opportunity for people to then, because you create a space where problems are talked about and challenges are, peers are discussing challenges and potential solutions, you create a space where people want to help each other. So if you came to one of my events, let's say you and I are both community managers, I know that a big pain is probably going to be community engagement. How do you engage your members? And that's probably going to come up in a lot of the learning circles that we create in these events. If I'm a community engagement company, then it's my job to make sure that you know what I do. But so when that conversation comes up and I want to help you, Yesh, I can say, you know what, you should check out Bridgio, because I've heard that they solve this problem. Let me connect you with the organizers of this event. And so now all of a sudden you almost have this, you almost have a sales force. It's not a true sales force, but you have these advocates. So a strategic referral network is all about advocate activation, people that know what you do and the problems that you solve, and you just simply place them in a place where they can provide that value to others. So the other thing that we're kind of bringing into this, into these events that we run, is when you build a strategic referral network, one, you want to gather your ICPs to one place. Two, you don't want to give them a webinar. That's inbound, right? Like I'm solving this specific pain point. What you want to do is, and that works, but the play I'm talking about is completely different. What you do is you say, let us come together, bring smart people together, and we are going to explore, we're going to engage mutually in uncertainty. So we create an event where the sidewalk ends. Let's explore what's beyond where the sidewalk ends. So let's bring a bunch of HR executives together as a brand, as a company, and let's just have a discussion about the future. Let's discuss what our current challenges are, and let's share best practices around maybe what some other people are doing. So where this idea came from is, I was working for a SaaS company. We had just brought on a huge client. They had locations all across the country. We were a reviews company. We helped businesses increase their reviews. And this company wanted us to increase overall over 300 plus locations, their reviews. And I was over implementation. I was over client success at the time. And we had this huge, I think they were less than 3 stars. They wanted to get it over 4. So we had this huge initiative that we had to accomplish. And we did our onboarding as quick as we could, and we got a little bit of an uplift, but we're not quite hitting the numbers that we need to be hitting across the board. And I was reading this incredible book called Influencer. And in that book, it talks about positive deviants. And a positive deviant is somebody that is getting positive results, but doing it in a different way. And so whenever you have these massive behavior adoptions or this massive, results change that you want to achieve, one of the first things that you should do as a leader is you should look at, well, who's actually getting the results that they want and what are they doing that's different than what everyone else is doing. And when you understand that, when you find the people that are doing that, and then you understand what they're doing, you simply take the formula and you spread it across the network. And now everyone else has access to the positive deviants. And so think about how many positive deviant things are happening that are in silos that don't have influence. And so because that network doesn't really exist. So what we did is we identified all the locations that we had rolled out our software to. They were doing really, really well. I called every single one of them up. I talked to every single person. And I found out, okay, what is it that you're doing? And they would let me know, and I would put that in a slide. And then we went to their annual employee conference. The CEO got up, talked about how important it was for us to be getting good reviews and how it's a great reflection on our organization, things like that. And then they called us up, and all we did was pull up a slide. Susan, hey, where's Susan? Susan, stand up. Y'all don't know this, but Susan is crushing it over here. Look at these reviews. Look at what patients are saying about Susan. And then we asked Susan what she does. This is what she does. So we did that a few times, built up some hype. And then we shared, here are all the positive deviant things that people are doing to get these kinds of results. You can get those too. And after the conference, people would come over to our booth and they would say, our practice was like a 1.5 star review. I had no idea that there were other practices that are crushing it and doing well. And 2, I'm inspired. I think it's possible for us to do this. And thank you so much for giving us this formula. So that's what a strategic referral network really is as a brand, your first value proposition. So we want to create law of reciprocity here. So a lot of times on LinkedIn, all of us get these stupid connection request messages. Hey, Nityesh, my name's Paul. This is what I do. Do you want to buy from me? What a terrible way to build and start a relationship, right? Rather than that, we say, hey, Nityesh, I have a group of community managers that meet once a month to talk about these 5 challenges. And we don't know the answers, but there are a lot of really smart people, and we're trying to solve these problems. I'd love for you to come to this event. So then we have that, we call it a brain trust. We bring these people together under a brain trust, and we say, we're here to talk about challenges that are important to you, but we don't have the answer, but your peers have the answer. So now we're creating pain. We're talking about pain. But the way that we bring people together is it allows us to identify positive deviants and then distribute that throughout the network. And if the company can do that and does that well, they do extraordinary, because they're sitting with their ICP. I usually will work with the founder. I like working with the founder because they need to know the voice of the customer anyway. They need to know the challenges anyway. And so that is, to us, that's a long answer, but a strategic referral network is basically bringing people together to explore solutions to challenges, and getting access to ideas that could solve your problem that you hadn't considered before. So that's the event itself. And then the strategic referral network part is making sure that the network knows the pains that you solve as a company. So that when those challenges come up, so for example, one of my clients, we've been building their community for 3 years now. It's an HR executive community. They're a mental health company. And it worked out perfectly to where every month we ask HR executives what's the biggest challenge. And they have a whole array of challenges that they're dealing with. And it changes based off of the economy and things like that. So like right now, or 6 months ago, during COVID, organizations were struggling to keep their employees. That was one of the biggest challenges. But one of the other challenges that has stayed ever present is, how do I help employees' mental health beyond normal ERP programs? And this company happens to be a mental health company for employees that are beyond just that. So it's a perfect alignment, because we know that HR executives are having this problem. And we also know that this company has nailed their market. They know exactly what the problem is, but how they frame up how they solve that problem is informed by this community. So after running this community for a while, their CMO listened to how the HR executives talked about the problem, what solutions they're looking for, and he ended up completely redoing the website to match more of how they talk about the problem. And so that's some of the things that come out of building the strategic referral network. In addition to HR executives are talking about this problem of employee mental health. And in those circles, in those small breakout circles, you get people that are like, well, you should check out this company because they could really help you with that. So now you're getting this informal referral from people that you've created this space for them to talk about challenges that match the solutions that you're providing to that ICP.
First of all, like I have to commend you on how well you've articulated the work that you're doing, because it's not simple. It's a new concept, the concept of strategic referral creation and then finding positive deviance. Like, I love how you've explained these concepts in such a succinct way. And it's really cool to have this third way. Like, look at community building as through the lens of like defining it through the lens of identifying positive deviants and spreading their knowledge across the network. That's really interesting. And then looking at go-to-market, so as not just inbound and outbound, but as like there being the third piece, which is referrals. And like referrals, you can be strategic about them, and you can do things to increase and massively increase the referrals that you're getting.
Thanks. Yeah, I think where it came from was a lot of organizations are going to spend a lot of money accessing networks that they don't own. So that's the interesting part to me. So after the SaaS company, I went and worked as a facilitator for a networking company. And I got a great look behind the scenes of how networking works and how relationship-based people, what they value. And what COVID did for networking was, before COVID, it was really hard to hop on a Zoom and meet people. But now, like, my network consists of people across the country, whereas before it was very geographic. And so I think there's a unique opportunity right now for organizations to build out strategic referral networks or strategic communities, simply because people are willing to do it. And you get this amazing opportunity. So one of the things I hear all the time, like this happened just yesterday with our CFO community. We asked, one of the challenges, CFOs are having right now is they're going through, if they haven't started their budget for next year, they're starting it soon. And how do you, their biggest challenge right now is, how do you manage budgets for next year given current economic market uncertainties? And that was one of the questions that one of the members had. And I invited her, she put it in the chat. I decided during the meeting as a facilitator to unpack that challenge, knowing that was a challenge that most everyone had. And I said, hey, looking for positive deviance. Hey, is anyone doing anything unique around this problem? And it was crickets. There were nothing came forward. But that's also powerful, because this woman thought that being in a meeting with other CFOs and knowing that everyone's thinking about it, that probably she was the only one that didn't have a solution. But when she found out that other people were like struggling with the same exact thing, and this happens all the time in all the communities that I build, all of a sudden she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one that's struggling with it. Now we can get into a productive conversation about the mutual engagement and uncertainty. So what are some possible solutions as smart people that we can do it? So I spend a lot of my time trying to identify the positive deviants, but there's also an opportunity to facilitate conversations when you just don't have any. So what are some deviant things we could do and try that could potentially turn into positive deviants in the future? That's where there's a lot of additional opportunities.
So interesting. I really want to geek out with you about community building and looking through your work and diving into these aspects of identifying positive deviants. But the listeners today are more interested in learning about how you built your consulting business. So I'm going to ask you some questions focusing on that next. So the first thing, Paul, is how do you get your leads? So you mentioned to me earlier is that most of your leads come through your own network, through LinkedIn. Can you dive like double click on that?
Yeah, we use the same strategy that we have our clients use, which is we build strategic communities for our own, for my own company. And that helps to establish a relationship. And then beyond that, most of our business, like any fractional business, is going to be built on referrals from there. So I don't know that
What's this community that you have? Do you have like a community of your potential clients?
Yes. We have a community of CMOs. We have a community of community managers. We have a community of founders as well. So what I've been trying to do is actually, in the process of what we provide, trying to find the perfect ICP. I think most businesses fail when you fail to understand who your ideal client profile actually is, and if they're actually having the pain that you provide. So for us, a lot of it is trying to figure out the best way for us to go to market. So we're still trying to figure that out. One of the questions that you had said you wanted to chat about is how are you how are you going to look to grow? And that's something that we're really, as an agency, we're trying to figure that out as we go. Like, we found something. It's definitely, we've proved the model in terms of the ability to drive the needle, but now I don't exactly at this point know exactly who my true ICP is. And that's why we're testing a few different ones, kind of, using the same strategy that we use with our clients.
Got it. So, like, in the interest of exploring, like, the questions that you may not know the answer to, but you're thinking about, like, and I know others listening are also thinking about it. How is this process of identifying your true ICP? What does it look like? And first of all, how did you even conclude that your current ICP was not it?
Great question. Well, I think going back to this, as a founder or as someone, seeking to identify the market that your services or product will fit into, it's really important to know what the challenges that persona is facing. And if you don't really know the challenges that it faces, then you can't speak to it, and you can't grow, and you can't scale. And so, for example, one of the communities that we built is for a support AI company. So basically, inbound support tickets get answered by their AI. They build relationships with client success, customer support executives. And when we first started building that community, one of the challenges that just wouldn't go away is AI wasn't even on the radar. This was 3 years ago. AI wasn't something that, people were putting on sticky notes saying, this is my biggest challenge is AI. Like, no one knew what it was. And so at first we were like, we don't know if there's actually a good fit here, because the pain that the ICP, and I think that's what you have to look for, is who is generally experiencing the pain that I have unique expertise or intellectual property to solve for that pain. You have to always be on the hunt for that. But what's interesting is sometimes it's not always obvious. And so with this particular AI company, the biggest consistent challenge that customer support executives were facing is basically, I'm struggling to give a career path to my agents, and my agents get really bored answering the same question 100 times a day. So we have high staff turnover because people are coming into our organization and they're answering X question for the 11th time that day, and they hate it. There's no creativity in their job. There's just a lot of repetition, and there's no upward mobility in terms of career path. And so we took that pain and we realized we can solve that. As an AI company, we can solve that, because AI answering inbound support tickets, that's what it does, is it answers the mundane questions and it leaves the complex ones for a human to solve. And so all of a sudden, your career changes from this boring, let's answer as many tickets as we possibly can, I'm getting graded on how many tickets I answer a day, to I'm dealing with these really complex customer issues that I need to think through and that I'm being challenged for. And I'm actually liking my job even more. And so that's what I think this strategy of identifying in the fractional space, there's a lot of debate about, do you niche or do you generalize? And I tend to fall on the niche side. I think that you're going to be more successful. And that could just come from the, being building software and like trying to look at, getting to a market with technology. You hear on that side of things, on the entrepreneur side of things. And so I tend to fall on that niche side, but I think that in order to find the niche, you really have to identify the specific pains that you're solving that may be different than what you think they are.
Love this. You mentioned something, and I want to ask you like follow-up questions over there as well. So the first one is, you said that, before that, like I think Mylance as a company also advises our customers and our community members to niche down and define your ICP. Like that's something that the audience will relate to very heavily, because we have hosted like hundreds of workshops probably on this subject. Now, in order to like have a niche, you said like actually like since you have a niche, your time as a fractional should be spent on the deliverables that you have, and you should have like clear deliverables. Can you talk about that a little bit by first of all telling me what your deliverables are for a company? Let's say you start with a new client, and what would be your deliverables in 30 days or however long your typical engagement is? And second, how did you figure out what your deliverables should be? Because I'm pretty sure like you didn't start out having those deliverables clearly defined when you were getting into the consulting business.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we had an idea of what we wanted to go to market with, and we definitely did. So we went to market with, hey, we're going to build a community underneath your company. So all of your ICPs are going to hear from you regularly. So what we basically do is we're your fractional community management team. And so we reach out on our clients' behalf. So we go out, we find the ICP, we invite them to a monthly Brain Trust event. And then during that event, we facilitate it. So the deliverable is recruiting to the community. We want to see recruitment growth month over month. And then in the event itself, we facilitate a great experience where people can collaborate and pain is uncovered. I already talked about that. And then the other deliverable afterward was, we're going to schedule meetings between you and your participants so that you can get to know them and they can get to know what you do. And so now inside this network, you've established yourself in the middle of it, and you can now you can go to work providing value for your participants. So tell me what your biggest challenge is. Okay, well, you need to talk to so-and-so because they just went through the same exact challenge. Let me connect you to. So now you're introducing them, and oh, your challenge is something that we solve. Let me get you to my sales reps. So at first we knew that that's what we could deliver on very easily. But as the rubber meets the road, things start to change. And we didn't actually change that much. But what I realized is that if someone is seeking, what clients really wanted from us is they wanted sales to increase. And in the very beginning, I always held a very strong boundary, and I still do to some extent, which is that, this community isn't a place for you to like hard-nosed sell people. The sales motion is truly about uncovering pain and then connecting that pain to a possible solution. But what I realized is that way of selling or engaging participants, ICPs, et cetera, isn't that well understood on how to do that. We're so used to like, hey, my house is on fire. Oh, I'm a fireman. Let me put it out for you. But the motion was a bit different. And so what would happen is a lot of my clients in the very beginning would be like, yeah, okay. I don't want my participants to feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel like this is a bait and switch. So I'm going to overcompensate. And it was funny. And so this is how the deliverables started to change. We had built this great community with a great partner. A year and a half in, one of the participants that had been coming every single month, a few of them actually said, hey, hey, company, we don't actually know what you do. And that was a huge miss. So in terms of how the deliverables started to change, we still recruit, we still facilitate, we still set up meetings, but now we're really focused in on, we want to see revenue increases. We want to help coach you and help you develop and create lead opportunities from this group. How do we help you do that now that we have this active audience? And so it hasn't changed that much, but what I realized is, in the very beginning, it was, we don't sell for you. It's very important that you understand that you've got to sell for yourself. But a lot of our clients didn't actually know how to do that. And so now another deliverable is, well, let's look at actually the opportunities that were created from this. And so we have to balance creating opportunities from a community, but also not cannibalizing the community at the same time, which is a continual learning process. But we're looking at that, and I feel like that puts the right pressure on us from our clients, which I didn't realize that at the beginning, but sometimes you have to take things on that your clients are going, like for us, our clients are hiring us for a very specific reason. And we were saying, yeah, but we'll take you 90% of the way, but you're in charge of the 10%. And I realized that we kind of needed to take on that 10% as well.
But isn't like this 10% of, creating revenue opportunity, isn't that a risky deliverable, as in, it's almost out of your control, because revenue basically depends upon so many other things apart from the community, which is product and, the salespeople and all of that. So isn't that a risky deliverable to propose when you're creating a new contract?
Such a great question. And that is why, if your business is based off referrals, you have to be careful who you decide. I have to be careful who we decide to run this play for. I want to make sure that their product is solid. I want to make sure that they actually are solving a great pain. And our clients, in the beginning, we people that weren't able to deliver on the pain or didn't, I was actually very surprised to learn that most organizations I work with don't actually know who their market really is. So, because we would build a community and all of a sudden it's like, hey, the pain that you're trying to solve, like, people aren't even talking about it. It's not even adjacent to the challenges that your people are talking about on a regular basis. And so then, you really, in terms of that deliverable, I like that because it opens up the conversation where we can say, we probably need to rethink who we're going after because this doesn't seem to fit. If it fits the sales motion in terms of our deliverable, it actually does work. And that's the caveat. If it doesn't fit, then it's not going to work. And we have to, so then we're doing this motion for a client, and then we lose the client because the pain doesn't match with the solution.
Right. Wow. Okay. This does make a lot of sense. It's great advice on being careful when you're choosing a client, and how it can actually backfire to choose like the wrong client. So yeah. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about the early days. Specifically, I want to know, how did you get your first 3 customers for this consulting business that you started? And actually, before that, when did you? How long has it been since you've been doing this?
We've been doing this for a little over 3 years.
Long time.
And in the beginning, what happened was I left this networking space, and I realized that I could run this community play for an organization, probably, get a nice salary and just run this play, and it would be really successful. And I was excited about that. But in the course of understanding, all right, here's this great playbook, I realized working through contractors, I could actually be running this play for multiple clients all at the same time and increase my revenue, which I was really excited about. And so getting those first 3 clients was, hey, here's the playbook, here's what we're going to do, here's the deliverables that we're going to deliver. And I had to kind of be frank with people and say, and I'd love for you to take a risk with me and do this, because I don't have any data of success that I've had. A lot of that looked like, in the beginning, I learned the lesson of rev sharing. Like, hey, we're going to build this community for you. Anything that comes out of the community is going to be 10%. And that didn't work. I mean, what that did help us do is that helped us get some logos, and that helped us test the motion and refine the playbook, which was great. So we definitely got some great benefit from it, but I never saw any revenue because it's hard to track. And so that was the first few clients was, hey, we want to work with you. We know you value relationships. We want to run this play. It's experimental. Let's try it and see what we can learn. And so we, it delayed. It didn't delay, but I felt like we had to do that just to kind of learn what we needed to learn.
And how did you get your first 3 clients? Was it through your network, your word of mouth?
Yeah, it was through a network. It was also, for me, I had identified a bunch of industries that I felt were siloed. They weren't chatting much with each other, where positive deviant emergence and spread could be really valuable for them. And so one of the first ones was an engineering group, and that one grew like crazy. It was wonderful. And then I went out and found a partner that was interested in, basically adopting that community as their own community. So then we rolled it up under them. I had another one I did was community of community managers. And I didn't realize this was before community management really, it was right before community management really kind of blew up. And I ended up, I built that one, spent a few months building that one, and then came in and engaged a company and rolled that community up underneath that company. And so that was kind of how it started in the very beginning. Was if I had an active audience, it was a lot easier to bring somebody in. So we had to take the risk and build it and then bring someone in later. But that seemed to work well. But identifying where we thought we could create this engaged space first, I think, was key.
Very interesting. And can you share how many customers you have today? On a current parallel basis?
On a month-to-month basis?
Yeah, I mean, how many active customers do you have?
I can share. Yeah, I can share that. We generally stick to 10, we're between 10 and 12 right now.
That's
Um,
big. And what's the
we could grow it bigger, and that's the thing that's tricky about fractional is like this could be a $10 million business because we've got the automation set up, we know what to do. But there are some challenges to what we do in the sense that when I go and build a community for a client, like I in our contract, we tell them we're not going to be building that similar community with anyone else
hmm,
with that same ICP. So in a lot of ways, your inventory is limited to
yeah,
who you can go after. So which means you have to be really careful about who you engage.
right.
But I like to keep it that way because, on the fractional side of work, you also do this because you want to have your lifestyle as well. So it really allows for enough flexibility for that for
Yeah,
us to be flexible and have the life that we want to have, but in addition, bring in some revenue and do it in a fun, unique way.
yeah. Um, and I'm really curious now. So you have if this business supporting 10 to 12 concurrent customers, and what's the size of your team?
We're a team of 3
And who are they? Like it's
contractors.
you, and
Yeah.
what
So
do those people do?
generally, I'm working with the clients, client management, strategic. When we build a community, I do all the strategy. And then I have contractors that work on the specific plays that we run inside the playbook, and
Hmm.
specialize in that. So I've got a contractor that works on the recruiting side. I've got a contractor that works on the event side, scheduling the meeting side, and then I'm working directly with the client every month, talking through what we've learned, what we changed, what the event needs to look like, what's the ICP talking about, how do we address this, things like that.
And how do you find the right like contractor?
That has actually been easier. So,
Yeah.
if I think about the fractional stuff that we're doing, I'm seeing more revenue than I would have if I was working full time in some position in a company, if I was working over
Mm-hmm.
client success or operations or something like that. So the
Mm-hmm.
revenue's higher. The headache of dealing with taxes and managing payroll and things like that, it's a small headache, but it's there. It's not something you would have with another company. But the thing that I love the most is if I was making the same amount of money in, like a VP role or above somewhere else, I would be managing a much, much bigger team. So when I
Right.
was in this SaaS company, it was 20, 25 people, which that's a lot of people putting monkeys on your back. And it's a lot that can come up. With the current team that I'm running, we're lean, we're mean. And the thing that I actually do like is that we're contracted. And contracting means, a W-2 means I expect you to show up to work at this time and do this, and in exchange we do this and this and this. A contractor means I can't, and I don't want to anyway, but I can't tell you when you can work. I can't tell you any of that. The conversation is always around, what do I need you to deliver? What am I hiring you to do? Which I love that conversation more. I think building an agency off contractors is a huge it's a huge breath of fresh air, because you have to create the contract and you have to say, this is what I expect to be delivered, and this is actually what I'm paying you for. And that's a much better conversation than, these are the number of hours I'm expecting from you, right? So with my contractors, it's, here's the jobs to be done, here's what needs to be done on a monthly basis, and here's when they need to be done. Doesn't matter when you work. I don't care when you work. Now, one of the drawbacks to that is, like, if I'm in a bind, like, I can't force a contractor to come and rescue me unless they want to, right? With a W-2, you kind of like, you're just this thing in the ocean moving with the waves. With contractors, it's like, here are the deliverables that need to happen, and you expect that to happen. But that's a very small price to pay, I think, for the flexibility of working with contractors. And it's a lot easier, like I said, because you lay out what you need, and if a contractor doesn't hit that, then they're out. So the pressure's right. So I
Right.
feel like we're achieving more as a smaller team, and a lot of it because we're all contracted.
Hmm. Love this. Yeah. This is another one of those discussions that we often have in the community, Maharaj community, which is um, the why pricing based on your output and having the project-based pricing is much better than having an hourly pricing.
Oh man, yeah. That was another
Yeah.
lesson I learned in the early days is as we started to get traction in the results that we deliver, I would lay out here's the tech that we've built that support the IP that we're going to go through. Basically I come in as this community architect, community officer in a way, and we architect what we're going to do. And then automation, contracts, playbooks, IP all support that. And in the beginning, there definitely was pressure from clients, and I think you have to get good at this. There was pressure from clients that said, okay, this sounds really great. And I do a monthly retainer. Like this is the monthly retainer that we're going to be on. It's a month to month. You can cancel whenever you want. I do that because I think it puts pressure in the right place. It puts pressure on us to deliver, which I think is good. And it gives the client, the freedom to say, to bring up issues, which I get. Issues surface and we can address those and then we can move on. But in the beginning it was, well, so Paul, how many hours is this going to take? And gosh, man, when you think about that, but the amount of time it's going to take me to calculate the hours that I'm working, that's a headache that I'm not willing to go down, because it just, the time it takes to track the hours that you're actually working only adds more time onto what you're doing. And so being able to talk and stay, I had a client once that was like, Paul, this sounds really great. But how many hours is this going to take you? And I had to look him in the face and say, you're not paying me for my hours. You're paying me for these outcomes. So these outcomes is what you're getting for this price. You have to decide if the price is worth the outcomes that you're seeking. And that's what I've kind of been sticking with moving forward, which is nice, because then, in the consulting stuff that we do, I've got people that are contractors that are working and doing stuff. So I have to manage my margins in a lot of ways. But it makes it so much nicer than I've talked to a lot of people who track hours, and what that does is I just don't feel like it sets you up for success, because now the client is always thinking about the hours that they're paying you. And you just get caught up in minutia that you just don't need to get caught up in. I want the client to be thinking about the outcomes that they're getting, the impact that I'm bringing to their organization, and what that's worth to them, not the number of hours that it takes me to do that.
Yeah. 100% agreed. Obviously, Paul, you have so many things that you've learned from running this fractional business and being a fractional yourself, and so many things that you can teach others. Did you start the fractional group to share all of these learnings that you've had as a consultant and as a fractional?
No. So one of the communities that I built is the Fractional Executive Brain Trust, and I did that for a company. A digital advertising company came to me. They said, hey, we're interested in building a community. I said, okay, well, who is your ICP? Who are you thinking about? Who do you want to build relationships with? And we came up with a short list, and on that short list was fractional executives. And up until then, I hadn't even heard of that term before. I did a little bit of research, and we had tried to build consulting company or communities before. And what's really interesting about consulting is consultants generally view each other as competitors. And so when you bring them into a community and ask them to talk about challenges and share best practices with each other, they're not doing that generally. So you have a lot of scarcity mindset there. And I told my client, I said, hey, it seems to me that fractional executive is going to be similar to consultants. I wouldn't recommend that we build this community. And they said, we want to do it anyway, which was great. And so we went out and we started building it. We ran our very first event, our first Brain Trust event. And the very first event, my thesis was totally, shot to hell. Usually when I start my events, I talk about the importance of abundance mindset. And right when I had finished talking about that in our very first meeting, Everyone in the chat was going crazy. Yeah, we're here to help each other. Yeah, we like to specialize. It only makes sense to refer to other fractionals. And that's when I was like, holy crap, something amazing is happening here. This is a different group. They have a different mindset. They're doing business differently. And so we built that month over month, highly engaged. I really didn't know that what I was doing was fractional work until I had built this community and started to understand what it was a little bit better. And so that community we've had going now for 2 years, and we meet on a monthly basis. The client that initially we built that community for, and this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier. This was in the earlier days. Turns out that wasn't their perfect ICP. So theoretically, they wanted to build partnerships with other fractionals so that they could, refer to them when they had a client that needed digital advertising. That I don't think worked out really well from a partnership perspective. But I've kept that community going because I identify so much with fractional work, and two, this space in general I find extremely interesting. Like, why would consultants be so scarce and fractionals be so abundant? That was a question that I had in the first 6 months of building that community. And I think this goes back to the niche conversation. I could put 4 fractional CMOs in a room and they could all partner with each other. Because marketing is such a generalized discipline. You have advertising, you have social media, you have SEO, there's so many different disciplines. And so what I've realized, and the reason why I think fractional work is only going to continue to explode, is fractional executives, they have some expertise, they have some IP, and they can impact and move the needle in a very specific way. So you have, it only makes sense for you to bring abundance into the conversation, because a lot of the times, and this is something I learned doing 300 plus phone calls with other fractionals, a lot of the times, 50%, north of 50% of the time, fractionals are disqualifying the leads that they're bringing in for one of 3 reasons. 1, the client doesn't have the budget or the time. 2, the client's needs don't match up with the expertise that the fractional executive who's engaging them has. Or 3, the fractional executive doesn't want to work with that client. So if you, as a fractional executive, are disqualifying 50% at least of the leads that you're going to bring in, it really behooves you to build power teams, to build these growth loops into your business of people that you trust, that you can refer to. And that's what I think makes the fractional executive space so fascinating and create such an opportunity, is if fractional executives can do a kick-ass job of qualifying a potential client, only to discover that half of them are not going to fit the bill, but you've gone through the effort because of your expertise and because of your experience. You're really good at getting to the root cause of a client's pain points, then it only behooves you to have that abundance mindset so that you can refer to your power teams, you can refer to your bench of people, and you have relationships with them as well. But you're connecting now, that you understand what the client's needs are, and you're connecting them to the right person with the right expertise. And the book Checklist Manifesto talks about this, and I think that's what we're experiencing right now. The whole book, Checklist Manifesto, is about creating checklists and how you can deliver consistently by doing that. But a very small portion of it was this really interesting analysis of the healthcare industry. As systems become more complex, specialty becomes more prevalent. So you can have, again, 3 different heart surgeons doing 3 different heart surgeries. And because the heart is so complex, that is all that they do. And I think that in the fractional space, that's what you're seeing now, is you're seeing executives leaving who want to work on work that they find energizing, on work that they can move the needle in. And as you define what that work is even more, what you start to see is that it's more specialized. It could be specialized toward an industry, size company, or even a discipline within operations, technology, security, whatever it might be. So you have this really cool constellation of people doing and moving the needle on really specific things. It only makes sense that we would have the abundance mindset so that we can match the client that needs that thing right now in that moment to the person that can actually deliver that in a very unique way.
I love this. I love this abundance mindset, and it's fascinating how it can apply to the fractional space itself. To close off, I mean, I know we're over time, so I don't want to take up any more of your time, but to close off, what would you say to the people who may benefit, who are listening to this podcast and who may benefit from joining your fractional executive brain trust, and where should they go?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that. I just think if you are a fractional executive and you are building relationships, most of your business is coming from referrals from your current clients or referrals from other fractional executives. The fractional executive brain trust is designed to simply create a space for you to come to meet other people, other of your peers, help them solve their challenges, and build those relationships. And so building those power teams is really where that can happen in the fractional executive brain trust. Is we tackle topics that are challenging to fractional executives broadly. And in so doing that, like rubbing shoulders, it's almost like a hackathon where, okay, here's a challenge. How are you solving this challenge? Or how would you solve this challenge? In rubbing shoulders with people who are looking at this challenge in the same way, you can start to build those relationships and learn about different fractional executive models. There isn't, as you probably know, running this podcast, there isn't a one model that everyone does. I can think of 5 different really unique fractional executive models, agencies that do it in a totally different way. And I think that plays itself to the uniqueness of what fractional executive is. And so you can have access to those types of conversations and meet those people that are doing it in certain. You have to bring curiosity. You have to bring abundance. So if you have those characteristics, you could come into the brain trust and really get a lot out of it. Give and get a lot out of it.
Love this. We will also link to the brain trust in the show notes of the this episode, so that listeners can just go in and check out more about what it is all about, and also just join. So
awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, Paul. That is all that I have. I have so many questions for you, like left over, but I respect your time and close off this conversation here today. It was such a fascinating conversation, learning about your consulting business, how you're thinking about things, and I know that the listeners are going to get so much value out of it, because you have been such an amazing guest and such a great articulate speaker. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, thank you so much. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on and kind of talk through some of this. I mean, we don't have it figured out. We don't have everything figured out, but that's kind of the fun part, I think.
Agreed. Yeah. All right, Paul. Let me stop the recording then.